I'm Christoph Jones, and this is going to be episode 3. It should be a good one. It's all about friendship and more grams with jams. Wait, jams with grams.
Okay, you're gonna be really disappointed. That's gonna like ruin your day.
One of the things about music that I think is really kind of amazing is how you can take two people that seemingly have nothing in common, grew up in different parts of the country, grew up religious, not religious, black, white, Latino, whatever. When you mention the right like music to those different groups, they all kind of get excited. And I think that there's like this equalization factor to music. I guess what I'm saying is like I think I owe most of my friendships to music. When I moved to Joplin in 2003, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends there. I had a small amount of family, and that was it. Basically, had it not been for music, I don't think I would have had such good luck with making friends in Joplin. All of my friends that I've really acquired over the last 14 or 15 years and beyond really have just been about music uniting me and other folks together. I think it's one of those things, like we all have that thing when somebody likes this band that you like, especially in the early days before like internet and things like that. I mean, if you were wearing like a Sonic Youth button, for example, on your shirt, and I saw that, I know this dude gets it, this girl gets it. I can go and have a conversation with them. Something about that, like I know that band, you know that band, that's great. Even if you don't even like that band, you just know, whoa, look at that. We are in the same group. I don't like Bad Religion, but I know you're a punk. I'm kind of like Ludo from Labyrinth. Right? I mean, I'm like this big hulking nonsense like galoot, and then I kind of like have a moment with somebody, and I'm just like, friend. I say all that to say is like this episode, I interviewed my friend Jenna, and she wasn't really my friend until I think after we sit down. And I think that's like one of the big things of this show is like to trick people into being my friends and like steal their secret. Jenna was like somebody that I saw around, and we traveled in similar groups, but I didn't really know much about her. And then it's kind of like one of those things. Like, have you ever seen somebody and been like, I think if we ever talked, we'd be friends, and then you just kind of make excuses to talk, and then you become friends. I mean, yeah. So Jenna, like, I'd see her around, and I'd just be like, hey, that girl seems pretty cool. And I found out she is also a record collector, and we had a lot of similar interests. And since then, it's like I just want to hang out with her all the time. She's so rad. She's sweet and interesting and funny, and she's just a good person to talk to. And she's one of those people you can just talk to for hours. And this interview will not do justice to the conversation we had because, let's face it, I got to make this thing watchable. Anyway, hope you enjoy this conversation with her. She's super rad. Absolutely, it was a pleasure to get to know her, and it's a pleasure to be her friend now, in like a truest sense. She's definitely a cat I could be like, hey, life's sucky right now. I need to talk to you about something, and she'd be like, yeah, cool, dude. Like, and also she's got a really great relationship with my lady, so that's cool, man. When you can make a friend and they're tight with your significant other, like that's super important. So like when did you start collecting?
Around 15. My grandma was a huge Elvis fan, so she had all of them, and that was it. And so she had like the old Sears Pioneer tables and 8 tracks and all the crap in it. So I just thought it was really cool. And then when I was able to start driving, she just gave me all of her collection, and that's when Eccentrics was open. And they basically gave away records. And I remember the first record I bought was Social D's Mommy's Little Monster.
Oh yeah.
Just because I knew the name. I was like, this is cool, I like this. And so yeah, I started at 15 and just always have.
Yeah. So she gave you her stereo. Cool. How long did you have that?
Years. I had it till I was like 20, and then I upgraded and finally bought, a newer table and gave it to my cousin. So it's still in circulation. He still spins it. His kids
cool.
play with it. So Still alive.
That Social D album, was that like the first one you really remember buying?
It's behind us still.
I was just gonna say, so do you still have it?
Yeah.
Like, I still have the first 2 albums I ever bought. Does everybody keep their first couple
I
albums?
think so, yeah.
Like,
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, like, I also had like an Andy Williams album. That was like my number 3 or 4 or whatever. I don't have that anymore, but like the other 2, it's like, it means something. Like,
That was my favorite thing. I still have a vivid memory of my grandma screaming from a different room as though I'd love just to turn the power off mid-spin so you could hear it slow down. It was great. And now I'm just like, oh my God. Those are original Elvis records. I was just like, just dragging needles.
Isn't it funny though, like now, like when you go someplace, like to see Elvis albums that are like crazy overpriced because they printed millions of those things.
Yeah, especially like buying them, like that and the Beatles were like
Totally.
the slow sigh every time I saw someone carry a box into the store. Like, I have Beatles. Okay, you're gonna be really disappointed. That'll like ruin your day.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like the Apple label means nothing.
Yeah.
You were at 15, so like, did you just like catch the bug immediately, or was it kind of like a slow build?
No, I think I was immediately into it. No one else at the time liked records, so I was kind of off on my own. And so a lot of the records I still have were just slow builds over the years. And then once it came back in. And they started printing everything ever made. Is when I, started really buying too much, probably. But yeah.
Did you kind of do like? I know that I spread the sickness to like my close friends and family. Like, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, so records are really cool," and then like. After years of me preaching, they kind of like, okay, well, I'll buy a record, and they're like, did you do that too? Like,
absolutely.
All your friends got into it?
Yeah, for sure. Tim Cote, I had 2 copies of Get Up Kids 4 Minute Mile. And he would, every time I buy records or look at stuff, he's like, I should get back into records. And so I gave it to him, and then like the next day I saw on Instagram, he'd like gone and got like new speakers and bought a receiver, and I was like, just slowly pull you in.
Where do you go? Like, do you have like some hot spots? Or you typically buy new albums, or do you search for old stuff?
I typically buy new stuff. There's not a lot. I hate to say it, being in the position I am, but there's not a lot of local 4-state area shops that I frequent a lot. I like Stick It In Your Ear in Springfield a lot.
I just was there. I bought a Tom Waits album.
Nice.
They had a 45 of 13th floor elevators. You're gonna miss me. And it was in pretty good shape, and it was like pretty reasonably priced, and I was like, yes.
So I do that a lot. I have a lot of distros and labels I really like to support, so I like to buy a lot directly from labels like Polyvinyl, and I really like Run for Cover. So I try to do that, even though I could buy it through work. I like to order from the labels directly.
Yeah. I'm like that with Discord. Like when you have an album that you want, do you kind of like scour around to make sure you get the right?
Yeah, like my favorite band's Against Me. The new record comes out really soon, and I'm really lucky that the company I work for is large enough now we get indie store exclusives.
Yeah.
So a lot of labels and bands are doing exclusive colors and small runs, like 1,000 whole countrywide, just to indie retailers, and so we get those. And so that's, earlier we were discussing knowing all that. I do a lot of research and find, what was the European variant and what's the band variant? And so I don't usually buy multiples unless I really love a record, but I am super picky about the initial buy.
Yeah. What makes you go like, this is the one?
Usually, honestly, I don't even really care about print numbers that much. It's usually aesthetic. Like the Against Me we're getting for the indie store is white, which seems like it'll match the album really well, but I ended up getting a baby blue from Banquet, a UK distro, just because it looked, I thought, really cool with the jacket.
Records, I mean, in collecting records it is an aesthetic too. I mean, there's something different about holding like this big, like 12 by 12 inch thing, and you can touch it and you can feel it, you can smell it, you can see it, you could taste it. A record is a record. Like the look of it isn't as important to me, like as far as the actual record, but there's some times where I'm like, oh man, like a friend of mine's band, he has this band called Glass Wands, and they printed their record on white vinyl, and it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, right?
Yeah.
But when I see that on my table spinning and I hear the music, I'm like, yeah, duh. Like it totally makes sense. do you have like, I won't pay more than
Yes.
this? Like, so you do kind of have that in your head, like.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So, what's the most expensive record you ever bought?
I bought an original brand new Deja from a friend for a little over $200.
Oh.
And then thankfully heard through the grapevine that they were repressing it for RSD, so immediately sold it.
Oh, right. Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, that one was just, it was at the time I really wanted to own it, and my friend had it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna splurge. But that was literally the most expensive record I've ever bought. The other one I always thought about was Against Me's New Wave. It was always out of print. And it would pop up for like $100, and I was like, yeah.
Is that the one with like the tiger?
Tiger, yeah. I have the Asbestos Records reprint, which really bugs me because they put their label, like, it's huge. Like their logo for their distro is in the middle of the center label, and it really bothers me on so many levels because like it's not your record. Like
right.
You don't know like why did you do that? So it kind of sucks. But I have a copy at least now that didn't cost me $100, so that's rad.
Right. So Against Me though, that's like your favorite band of all time?
It is, yes.
So do you, with the exception of like something that's coming out new, do you have like all their? Yeah,
I have a lot of, and that's the thing too, is like my 45s are pretty limited because, again, I don't know if it's just my weird brain of being frugal or like it's ridiculous. I don't buy a lot of 45s. It bugs me. It's usually 2 or 3 tracks. You got to flip it in 2 minutes. I just don't do it. So I have a really small amount, but I have a lot of their bands that I just can't. Got to. So I have a lot of Against Me 45s too.
I resisted 45s for a really, really, really long time, and then what spun me around on them was nobody likes to buy them, so there's a lot more around, and they're easy to make money on. Like, have you ever felt like when you're out and you're like looking for records and you find a copy of something that you like maybe already have? Have you ever thought like, I have to buy this because this shouldn't be here? Yes. Like somebody needs to own this already. Like,
well, that was actually the Slater Kinney behind us. There is the variant, the green and brown screen print variant, and I found it in Florida at a random. It's called, I think, Radioactive. It was a really amazing shop, and I was wearing a Slater Kinney shirt, and I already owned that record, but I picked it up and was like, whoa. And I was like wearing the shirt and I was like, it's fake. This is like, I have to buy this record. Yeah. And I went up to the counter and the kid was like ringing me up and he double checked. He went, did you know this was here? I went, no. And he was like, dude, no one told you? I was like, I'm not from the state. And he gave it to me half off.
Oh,
he was
wow,
like,
that's cool.
He was like, it's fate. And I was like, you're right, man, it is fate. So I have 2 copies of that album for that exact reason. Like, I couldn't leave it. Like, I had to buy it.
Question line B. So you walk into a record store, random place, doesn't matter. What's the first thing you go for?
First thing I usually go for is if they are smart and have genres, I usually immediately go to the punk section because I want to peruse. And then usually soundtracks. I like a lot of soundtracks for some reason, scores. So those are probably what I go for.
What's your favorite soundtrack going right now?
Oh, man.
You can give me a couple if it helps.
Yeah, I really, really loved the Evil Dead remake score.
Really?
It's so good that like the first few times I spun it, I was walking through my house and felt uneasy. I couldn't quite place like, what was happening.
That's good, right?
And I was like, oh, it's the record.
That's cool.
So I really liked that one. The Django soundtrack I thought was great.
Yeah. But you like the score, so you're actually you're talking about the background music and like Danny Elfman style kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really love that stuff. I loved the Whiplash soundtrack, which is
totally. I on my list of gotta watch, but I have not all that much time.
Amazing.
So it's like on my iPad, just waiting to be watched, and like
it's great.
It's been out like however long.
One of my favorite.
Yeah.
Probably that. The Scott Pilgrim soundtrack has always been
so good.
Top 5.
I want to ask a bunch of like really aggressive questions about vintage stock, but that's not fair. Like you work there.
Yeah, I could always just be like, I don't want to keep my job, but I mean, like.
Well, so it's like, here's the thing about vintage stock. Like, I don't know how I feel about it.
I'm sure that all the older people were saying the same thing about our music as what I'm saying about the music now.
Have you ever heard of punk music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Do you like punk music?
Oh, boy, it's hard to say. Probably not. But But I like it better than I do a lot of the today's music. So, it could be all right.
Okay.
It could not be all right.
Have you ever heard of the Dead Kennedys?
Well, gee.
No?
Tell me again?
The Dead Kennedys.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
Oh, you've heard of that band?
Oh. We'll give it a try. Dead Kennedys. No, I really never heard of them. Boy, I am green. Aren't I green?
You're a little green.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is good. This is really good. Best thing I've listened to. Yeah. He's nervous as heck. They like California. California? California. Woo, woo, woo. Oh, that's good. Oh, my. They got faster and faster. Now, how you going to dance to that? California. Go California, that's all I can say. Back in '84, it was pretty hippie. Whoop!
So what did you think of the Dead Kennedys?
Well, I kind of dug them. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you call yourself a punk now?
Heck yes.
So, I've been doing this recent pickup thing, and, that's fun, I think, in some ways. And I think my thing is like, hey, do you like this band? I like this band, kind of. I think that's what I want it to be like. I don't know if it's coming across that way. But I hope it doesn't come across of like, look at me, I'm so cool, I bought records. Because I think that's kind of silly. It's more like, hey, do you have this album? Do you like this album? That's really kind of what I want, like, a conversation to be like. Like, the internet's amazing. It really is. I love Instagram. Like, that's really a really cool platform to me. And there's a really good, like, vinyl collecting community on Instagram. I think the first person I started following is Now Spinning. Then I realized there's other, like, Instagram nerds like me that are also record nerds. I follow several different like vinyl people on Instagram. Now Spinning, that dude's cool. This guy I've been following for a while named Malcolm Purdy. That dude's cool. I like his setup. I like his whole vibe. We've never spoken, but I have this like weird kinship feeling with him, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because you've just like followed somebody for a couple of years and you've liked all their photos. So I was on there the other day just like going through, liking photos, being cool, and being cool? Where did that come from? This cat named the Vinyl Seeker put this album up, and I was like, what? As Cities Burn, Son, I Loved You at Your Darkest. This album is absolutely fantastic and completely brings me back to hanging out with my friend John Johnson and his wife Rachel, and we listened to this album like a billion times. And I've looked it up on like Discogs before thinking like, I'm gonna pick this thing up. So expensive. Vinyl Seeker posts a little record selfie, right? They repressed it. So I sent the dude a message. I was like, what's up with that pressing, bro? And he told me, and he was like, that's what's cool about like kind of the Instagram vinyl community sort of thing. Or just like vinyl collectors in general, because they're like, yeah, dude, it's just right there. Like, no one's weird, or they were really gracious and answered my comment or whatever I sent them, like, super fast. So I, of course, sent it to John, and I was like, John, dude, they repressed it. Beautiful looking, like, I guess that's one of the questions that I kind of think about. Do you spend $250 on an album, or wait for it to be repressed, or hope? I mean, there's a couple albums I don't know that'll ever be repressed that I really want. And so they're like on the cusp of like, do I buy? I mean, I guess that's the question of the day. So recent pickup is really more of a question pickup. 3 episodes in. Hopefully you guys are kind of enjoying this a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I really appreciate, anybody that's watched the first couple of episodes. I'm not doing this for anybody but me. And I know that sounds like maybe like an ego thing, but that's really not what it is. It's more like, this is just something I want to do. if people like it, that's great, and I hope that they do. If people don't like it, I'll probably still do it, because at the end of the day, you know, I'm just trying to trick people into being my friend. Anyway, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the other side.
You don't even have to worry about like looking at the camera. It's not going to be that serious. How's my gut looking?
Good.
Pretty
Blue.
good. Huh?
You're blue.
Yeah, because that's where the focus is.
Yeah.
Is the focus at my gut?
No, it's on the